What's up? Welcome to another episode, video episode, special YouTube exclusive episode of Marvel Schmarvel. This is the little Marvel special project that we do as a side shoot of the Schmovie podcast. I'm Steve, and I'm here as always with...
I'm Ron.
And U.S. Agent.
Also known as
John Walker.
Yeah. With our weekly kind of recap of the Disney Plus series Falcon and Winter Soldier. Right now, the plan is, as other stuff comes out, we kind of have this special video series on YouTube to kind of discuss the Marvel stuff, because we found we were talking a lot Marvel on the Schmovie podcast. So it's like, let's just give it its own thing.
Yeah.
So for those new to the special episodes here, welcome. We're on episode 3 of the first season of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Disney Plus series, with Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie. I don't know. You guys want to jump into this, or what's the starting point right now? We're at the midpoint of this season. Any approach to how you guys want to take this episode down?
I would like to start with just one thing. As the John Walker in this group, I would just like to say, how ridiculous is it that fans are actually giving Wyatt Russell, the actor who plays John Walker on the show, actually giving him hate? Like little, that kind of Rose Kelly Marie Tran kind of hate online. And the only thing is, he's not really on social media to be drummed off of social media. But have you not read about this, like the death threats the constant?
I've seen some of it. Yeah,
bashing. It's just crazy. I mean, he seems to have a really good attitude about it. He said his big compunction was not people thinking he was disappointing. His big reluctance was worrying he was just going to be imitating what Chris Evans did in the role. And he said once he learned more about the character, for one thing, he said he started reading the comics and he said there's 19 different versions of this guy. This is too weird. And so he just read the script. But I think he has a really good attitude about it. And I guess I would be trying to laugh it off too. I think he thinks it's a sign that he's doing something effective if people feel that way. But I just am disappointed once again in our fellow fans if people are actually confusing a fictional character with a real man and like saying tacky shit about someone in person. I don't know. To me, the only thing I can't find is the actual evidence of where it's being said, because you read stories about it, but since he doesn't have a social media account, it's hard to find the places where people are sharing those memes. Some of the memes are funny, though. I don't like that it's now saying, like, John Walker could never, and it's like something awesome that Steve Rogers did.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
Toxic
it sucks
fandom,
that you
though.
guys share the same name. Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting ride so far. And I guess we put a question on Twitter related to I don't want to read the first part of the question, but I'll read the second part. Basically, how are you feeling about Falcon and the Winter Soldier so far after the events of the current episode that we're going to talk about? And we had people vote. And we had love it, hate it, and meh. And 78.6 of our voters, 14 votes.
Nice.
People said they love it, but that's not bad, man. I feel like the interaction between us and the Twitter people are happy. It's going to grow, it's one step at a time. But yeah, people are loving it based on the events of this current episode. So
were there any hates or meh? Or
there was one meh. It looks like there was one meh.
Does it tell you who it was?
No. And I think
it was me.
It was you? Oh man, what a twist. What a twist. It was you?
It was me, yeah.
You're mad about it?
Well, this is the point I want to. I want to go into this episode. I mean,
please.
I like the poll, and I like that people are loving it. But I kind of felt So one of my concerns, like after the second episode, was just that I'm a little worried that there's only 6 episodes, and it seems like there's a whole lot going on. Yeah. And like with each episode, I think, like more is being added to like the story, or like the mystery, or like what's like who's the power broker, and we meet Sharon Carter again, you see Zemo again, and you get a little more about Carly, and like I guess I'm definitely into the series, but I'm just a little the meh is a little more directed at the pacing, which you talked a lot about at the end of WandaVision. I just hope that in these back 3 episodes, when you compare the first 3 to the back 3, that it doesn't feel like a 20%, 80% story thing happening, which is, I'm a little worried about that, because there's a lot going on with John Walker, which is a really interesting character. And I think Wyatt Russell's doing a lot of really cool stuff on the show. But for a show called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I'm a little worried that we're not like some of the best things are with them together and just exploring these characters and building them out, which a lot of people on our Twitter I saw were saying. I know Amanda commented on it, and like that's all true. Like I like all the stuff with them. I'm a little concerned that there's just so much being added to it that I don't know that we're going to get enough of the time that I selfishly want with the characters that the show is named after, and maybe this John Walker character. Like I'm a little worried, like what Zemo's part, Carly's part, who the power broker is Sharon Carter to be trusted? There's a little fishiness going on with her, like there's so many things up in the air right now that I'm just worried that only being 6 episodes, even though they're longer, they're not that long. You know what I mean? They're not like Game of Thrones length things where like you really get to flesh some of this stuff out. So I don't know. I guess it's more of concern because I really do like the characters. I love what they're doing with both of our leads, and I'm very intrigued by John Walker, and I like how,
as most people obviously
are. It goes without saying, we've done a lot of episodes with you. I'm very intrigued by
right. What if you weren't? What if you weren't? What a weird decision this would be.
This guy.
I'm only going to do 500 hours of conversation with somebody I don't like.
I don't know. It's just like I think about like a lot of the stuff we talked about with WandaVision and what we loved and what we didn't. And, a lot of what Ronald said about the pacing. Mm-hmm. I just hope that there's not like a big dump of exposition or a big dump of story in those last, especially 2 episodes, because I think there's a lot of really interesting things they could explore with Falcon and Winter Soldier. And again, we keep getting these little like doses of like John Walker's like, moral ambiguity, some pressure that he's under, like little fractures. And that stuff is the most interesting to me, especially because he is replacing someone that is like my favorite character in the MCU.
Yeah.
And, I like that kind of dichotomy of like what he's supposed to be and what he think he has to be. And I don't know, I'm a little concerned, all these extra characters and settings and things like that are coming in that are cool because it's new stuff, but it's a 6 episode series, so I'm a little worried.
I understand the pacing concern, and I do think that the 3rd episode, as compared to the first, you see a little bit of that. What we were saying when we were talking about the storytelling, even in that first episode, is that it felt a little more prestige for Marvel because it had this kind of maturity, or lack of a better word, I don't know. But like it was going into real human stuff a little bit more, in the real world a little bit more. And the 2nd episode even had that stuff, and the 3rd episode did too. But I think what I would say is I don't really have your concern. I would say at this point it just gives me attention that I will have until it's over. Is this going to be a satisfying and complete 6-hour story or 6-episode story? It'll be closer to like a 5-hour story.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I guess what I'm saying is whatever concerns I have of like, well, the show doesn't seem as prestige or as sure or as like calibrated when it starts mixing all those elements in. I think it still has the character development stuff, and it's actually very good. I think thus far the Marvel-y, funny, quippy stuff they've had has been pretty good. Like I think Zemo is an unexpectedly great like comic relief character, and it's great to have them working with a villain. I don't quite buy the retcon of his character into some kind of rich
that's what
Baron.
that stuff.
That felt like they just said, well, let's just throw away everything we know about this guy so we can have the comics accurate version. But I got to say, the meme, I've already seen the meme of him pulling around the corner in the convertible, get in, we're going shopping, that kind of meme. I think he's very funny, him dancing. I just think Daniel Bruhl brings a lot, but I do agree with you that it's like that control over the tone and what the show is. I would not say I feel it slipping yet. I would say I feel that there's an uneasy mix between the stuff that really turned us on at the beginning and the other stuff thus far, which I would say thus far is still very good quality, like Marvel on television. Like there hasn't been anything that's quite cinematic. Like that first, well, there've been a couple of action scenes, but I don't think the 3rd episode had action scenes quite on the level of the first 2.
No,
but it did roll in a lot of characters. Now here's the thing though, if they spend the next 3 episodes at the same pace, kind of untangling where they've got us now, it might be what you're talking about, Steve. It might be like that they've just added enough. You know what I mean? As opposed to throwing in things because, and here's what I'm worried about, throwing in things because they want to set up little Marvel-y moments and little Marvel-y things. Yeah. Like I'm worried that Sharon Carter is going to like be set up but not really dealt with much in this story, or different little things that they might do. And same with even with Zemo, is the point now that he's just out and he's a Baron, or is he going to actually play into this plot line? John Walker, are we going to see that moral ambiguity you're talking about in the next 3 episodes? Is it going to crescendo into something and leave him in a new state and feel like a story? Or is it just going to be, oh, now we have this character? Do you know what I mean? And to me...
Yeah, just existing, yeah.
Kind of like Monica in WandaVision, where she started off seeming so important, and in the end it really seemed like, oh, this is an origin story for a character they want to do more with. So I don't know. I'm kind of reserving judgment. I think thus far it feels so good and so confident, and so just like this is like tuning in. This is even more than WandaVision. This is tuning in for the Marvel universe every week.
Agreed.
And every episode thus far that has ended, I have been like, yeah. So, but I know what you're talking about. That like, how is this going to mix with that comic booky tone and with that just. Like at this point, again, they picked up Zemo. I like that they're picking up these underworld characters as they go along through this story. I think that's cool, but it does kind of feel like halfway in, you would feel like you would know more, like what's the actual, for lack of a better term again, end game of this story.
Yeah.
I have a couple thoughts. Amanda, thank you for commenting. She kind of said that character development is what she loves about the show. It's also the thing that I hate about the show, because sometimes it feels like a lot of character development that isn't going anywhere. It feels a little stagnant. Like it's all character development without any like, what's the end game? We don't even know what the end game is right now. So that's ironic that it's end game. And there seems to be this, like, I call it community syndrome about the Marvel universe, where there's like, first couple seasons were just it establishing the world that existed in Community. And then the last 3 were like, you know us. Season 2, we did this thing that you should know about in episode 2. We did the paintball. Remember the paintball fight? I'm referencing this, but it's just one line from the episode that you should know about back then. I think sometimes Marvel gets too confident in its storytelling in the way that sometimes I just need to know the references, because I may be stepping into this thing for the first time ever. I'm just saying, we're I'm thinking about the casual Marvel watcher that's coming in watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a standalone thing, right? If you don't know who the fuck Sharon Carter is, if you don't know who the fuck the surprise at the end is, sometimes I just want them to reference the bigger story without being like, hey, you know this person, you know what it is, you know who this is, you know what we're referencing.
Right.
That's bad storytelling. If we're talking about isolated storytelling that kind of stands on its own, we want you to explain these things, even if it's simply like, oh, that's from this world. Oh, that's just give me a little hint. Because I'm thinking about that, I've had friends message me like, who was that at the end of, what was this reference? Who is Sharon Carter? Who is, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that it has to do this all the time, but I think a lot of the times it should be independent of itself, but also explain the bigger world. And Marvel relies too much on the idea that you've watched 10 years of their stuff versus telling standalone stories. And that, to me, is lazy a little bit, but that's neither here nor there.
See, I wonder, because I hear your words and I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I think I agree with you in theory, but I think if there were more info dumps in the show, it wouldn't be done elegantly. So I guess if they could find a way to maybe do half of the info dump that they usually do.
Just a teeny bit.
But like with Sharon Carter, I don't, because I was just thinking, well, how could they have set her up better? Because I really liked, for instance, seeing Sharon Carter and that she's morally ambiguous. I loved that she's morally ambiguous. Like, I thought it was cool that, okay, you sort of expect to see her come in and just be a hero and just straight ahead person. And then you realize, oh, she's been like, the blip did something to her, and we see her as like a mistake of Steve's, like something along the way that he left behind, or that he didn't fully, someone he didn't help as well as he could, who helped him. Yeah. And that's like that's like one of the first, maybe they're going to start doing this. They're going to chip away at this idea that Steve was this godlike person for a minute before reminding us that he really was everything we thought. We're going to find out that he did try to provide for Sharon and something stopped him or something. But what I'm saying is, like, I like what she represents to the story because of that. And I agree with you that maybe they could have said in 20 seconds, there could have been an exchange that explained, like, not just who she is to the people that haven't watched, but the context of who she is to the people that have watched and want to be reminded. Because sometimes I remember somebody, but I'm like, how did they leave that? What was the last time we saw that person? Was there some little DVD only, one-shot film that explained what happened to them? Like, I don't know what's canon and what's not myself, because I'm not like keeping 25 movies or whatever it is in my head all the time. So I think somewhere in the middle between treating us all like newbies and acting acting like we all have memorized everything. I do think they could find a better pitch with just a line or two more because of what Steve's saying. Because they're throwing new characters and new scenes at us, which is really cool. Like they're now in Madripoor, which is like, that's a big X-Men location. And so the whole time I was like, this is a great way to backdoor in the fact that they have access to the X-Men without having to cast their anything. I do wonder if the Power Broker is going to be a recognizable character or a name that we will be excited to see. But I think you do need, with all that throwing new elements in, especially to maintain the pace of this show, I think you need to have that extra moment or two. It's almost like they need that person back at home base, sitting at a computer, talking to them on a walkie-talkie, reminding them of what the story is. It's like, but I do think they could have that between the two of them. They're different enough, and what they've experienced is different enough. Anyway, I agree with you, Ronald, in theory. I just worry that the way they would solve that would be to like info dump it up, and after Justice League, I don't need 2.5 minute info dumps from anybody.
John, I went to 3 high schools. I got kicked out of 2. I hate homework. Whenever I hear people talk about fucking, you know what makes me mad? I'll tell you why this.
You live in the moment. You're a creature of the moment.
Yeah, you know why this bothers me? Have you ever heard somebody say, "Man, I watched episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I gotta go back to Civil War and watch this thing." I don't want homework. Don't give me fucking homework. Right now, as the 10-year mark happened and Endgame happened, it's cool to go back and do a little homework. At the 11-year mark, at the 12-year mark, you're gonna get sick of going back and looking at 3 movies to explain a TV show that you're watching.
Yeah.
I think the flip of that is it would be sad if they lost that, if they lost the baggage and the weight of the history that we know. So I think that it's finding that middle pitch. What makes Marvel special is that we've seen a lot of it and it's built up to now. What makes it sometimes maybe aggravating to newbies, as you've said, is it does sort of act like everybody's a fan. You know,
it does, man. It does, and it is. I say out of all the things that bother me about everything happening, that's it. That's what made the Netflix ones cool, because they didn't assume that. They were like, okay, you've never seen this stuff before. Here's the story. That's it.
Yeah.
They were clawing their way out of the gutter, kind of, in terms of like, no one had any expectations. This is TV. None. This isn't going to be good. We don't have much money, but they were like busting their ass. And in a way, you're right. I think we've talked about this before, and we've never quite put it this way, that the Marvel swagger can sometimes kind of grate on your nerves a little bit. And I'm saying that as someone who thus far has loved the show, but that every now and then that whole, hey guys, we got it covered, it can seem a little smug, which is a weird thing to say, but it can be a tone.
But if I think it's earned, though.
Oh, it is.
It's earned.
It's totally earned. I feel that way about everybody's swagger. I don't love it, but I'm like, man, this person gets to swag.
Somebody has it. Some people have it. And they don't really necessarily deserve it. But I mean, I feel like Marvel, though.
Don't subtweet me right in front of me.
if of anyone and anything that we ever discuss on this podcast, filmmakers, productions, anything, I don't know that anything is more tried and true than at the MCU. I mean, of everything we cover on this show and the podcast itself, there's not more of a sure thing than the MCU in this day and age, in pop culture, in movies, whatever, maybe in TV. I don't know. This is only number 2. But I mean, I think that confidence is like something that is definitely earned. And I agree with everything you're saying. But I think the way that it kind of comes through in some of the properties sometimes doesn't land as well as other things. And I mean, because maybe this is a new frontier, like the things that Ronald's describing, like finding that better balance of, the casual person who maybe just happened upon, these shows because they have a Disney Plus subscription and they don't go to movies, that's kind of the thing that they really need to be aware of. And I have no doubt that they are. And in general, though, I feel like this show is definitely doing a pretty good job. And I would say, some of the things you guys are saying, I agree with. But I feel like in some cases, like they're doing a pretty good job in dropping certain lines that do give you a little bit of background on who these people are, for those people that maybe are coming to this have no idea. The comments about, Sharon, that Sharon makes about like what John was saying earlier, kind of being left on the fringe and kind of being able, not being able to come back into the fold like everybody else did. And there's just been a couple, I think, pretty precise line drops or dialogue in the show that has done a pretty good job of bridging some of those gaps. But I do agree in general that there is a little it's teetering a little too much on the side of like everybody knows everything about the MCU. And, that's a little dangerous, especially like when a character like Zemo, where like he's coming in and being kind of reinvented, it seems, in a way, which you don't really know how he's going to end up in this season. It could just be all for his own purpose. But it's like for someone who doesn't know what he did in Civil War or the impact of what he had on Wakanda and like, the actual repercussions of those things and why it's important that we see that character at the end of the show of this episode, that all just would seem very confusing and very,
this character
like,
didn't feel like he would wear that dad sweater that he wore throughout Civil War. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly.
It didn't seem like that character would have done that. Like, why would he impersonate a normal man for that story to work? I don't see why he would have.
Right. And, the even the jacket he's got and like, this mask that he's kind of secretly carrying around or not so secretly carrying around, like, it's just very different, and like I think even the big like reveal at the end, like Rana was saying earlier, people asking who that is, or people thinking it's Okoye, or people thinking it's the wrong character, because I think that that's that confidence that they think like, oh, you're gonna know this is Io or whatever, and people don't, like even who I watched it with did not realize who it was. This is a friend of mine who watches the MCU. It's just. You don't
Steve,
remember that she was in Civil War, like
I do this annoying thing in the room. Like I'll announce things if I'm not sure, because Nikki will sometimes not remember stuff like that too.
Right.
And I'll be like, "Wow, from Wakanda, remember?"
Yeah.
And I don't mean it to sound that way, but I'm just saying because
because
I feel like you're right. These sometimes they have a moment that should land dramatically, and that one was on the edge. Right. Like I knew who it was, and I was excited, but I was like, "Oh, this moment! I feel like they could have set her up more so that we're like, wow, it's her," and it would have been really cool instead of feeling like for some people that might have felt like, oh, who's that? Oh, I can't wait to see. But it wouldn't be like this Wakanda connection that just made me just go, oh, wow, this is great. Yeah. I was hoping this show would deal with Bucky's time in Wakanda in some way, and having him have like allies there. I mean, I love it. I love that what that could do for the story. So I agree. That's a great example. That's a great example. More so than Sharon Carter, who I was like happy to see, and I kind of remembered the broad strokes. With her, it took me a second to go, wait, what role did she have in that story, and what was her orientation towards the other characters, and was she more of a loyalist, or was she more? And again, I remember who she is, but you don't always remember the tertiary characters from a movie from 5 years ago and like morally where they stood,
Yes.
And it's becoming less of a thing of like, do you read the comics? And now it's like, we have 10 years of movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movies?
Do you read the movies?
Because these things vary so differently. Like, I'm saying like Civil War is legitimately one of my favorite comic books, like so series to span over 20 comics that I've ever read. It's nothing like the movie. So I can't speak super intelligently about the movies if I haven't seen the movies, but I've read the comic. It varies so differently. I mean, like, sure, it has the bones of it a little bit, but it's so different. And this is the last thing I'll say about that whole idea, man. I think that sometimes when we talk about things being on top, we act like it's going to be on top forever. We've seen things fall. We've seen things fall from grace. And I just think that they're turning a corner where you have to maintain the quality. It's not you've earned us our attention, but that makes it easier for if somebody makes a cool, funny observation about how poorly made something is, it can make the difference in something being viewed and something not being viewed. So you have to kind of maintain a quality. I'm not saying that I'm not.
They have to increase the quality. Even I would say if they just maintain at this point, it'll feel like why are we doing this? So they have to actually up the ante.
Hit it on the head. You hit it on the head. You have to. You got to push the limits because there's still a bunch.
And
of
they
things
are.
They are. And I do think they are. And I do think this show has stepped forward.
Yes.
Right. It did. Like we're already talking about. Oh, is there going to be a season 2? Like that. We're already in love or very much in like with these characters to say like I don't think 6 hours or 6 episodes is enough time to fully develop and fully explore this. Like we've said, the kind of military. Because it's a great way to approach superheroes, honestly, once you've set them up as genuinely good people, is to say, well, how do they relate to the government? What's their role as compared to the government? I know that's a common theme, but again, talk about things Marvel has earned. They've showed us enough to show that, like, Sam Wilson working with the government has a lot of baggage on it, So and the fact that they're kind of renegades and that John Walker and Battlestar are like the official good guys of the government, but they're the ones who seem more shady. I do think we're getting towards it could be a very interesting face-off at the end of this. But yeah, it's almost hard to know if they keep the current pace. What does 3 more episodes get you story-wise? So yeah, I'm very interested to know what the climax of this story is going to be. And is it just going to say they'll return in season 2 at the end, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with a cliffhanger if that's where we get it. But I don't want it to be like we pretended it's a real story and we're being cagey about if there's more, and this didn't feel good. That's what I'm, if not afraid of. That's what, if in 2 more episodes they've continued to kind of slip with their tonal control, I think I would have your concerns that you have now, Steve, about just like, oh, wait, is this show going to work out? Because WandaVision did ramp it up too much. Last couple episodes were just a different show. Yeah,
I feel like also just like, I don't know, a part of my like want for this show is I do want to see more action. Like I'd want to see more. I mean, you have 2 really cool characters that you're like fleshing out as people, but I mean, the reality is that like, they are the title of the show and we're watching them because they are like superheroes. Like I want to see that still. And like, there have been a couple cool action sequences, but I think in general, like, for the quick flash I got to see of the Winter Soldier kicking back in at that bar, like that's cool shit. Like I want to see that shit. And the fact that like people were filming it, like I know that that's going to come back somewhere in the show. Or like, that's going to be leveraged against him. And that's interesting stuff. Like, I like that. And, I'm sure John Walker will use that in some way or get a hold of that and use that in some way. But that's the stuff I want to see. I want to see more of, like, I do want to see more action. I want to see more of their interplay together when they're working together in those action sequences. Because, some of the stuff like in Civil War with Bucky, I mean, the scene in Civil War, obviously at the end in the bunker, like with Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man is like one of my favorite things ever. But you have that opportunity to see, Steve's 2 best friends become that tandem team that like can, with their powers together, like be as powerful in some ways as Steve Rogers was. And I don't know, that's exciting. That kind of gives me goosebumps a little bit, even just saying it out loud. I just want to see it. I want to see more of it.
Absolutely.
And I want to see more of them like in the action, in the moment, showing why they are who they are.
Think about, Steve, how awesome it is, though, for a storytelling purpose, that Sebastian Stan, who was kind of a newcomer, it almost seemed like a pretty boy when they cast him, honestly, to me.
Yeah.
And then actually has been great in this role. And we see now he's a very good actor. Think about the fact that the storytelling power of that scene you just described from the end of Civil War, it's now in Bucky. Like,
I know.
But Bucky was there for that shit. Like, who else saw that? Who else saw what happened? Like, I don't know that
you saying that is giving me cold chills.
Like I never have dealt. I've never thought about the fact that Bucky is like, guess what? I remember that no one else saw is when the 2 best guys in the world tried to kill each other. Like
over me.
Over me.
That's crazy.
Insane. The weight of that is insane.
Yeah.
It's pretty
That's
crazy.
A great point,
John. We're kind of left at an interesting situation. The tandem of Falcon and Winter Soldier decide that they have to kidnap Zemo, get him out of jail, to kind of figure out what's going on with the serum. At first, they think that the serum is attributed to Hydra, and through Zemo, they find out that it's not. But Zemo wants them to go undercover in Latvia. Where do they go? They go to like Latvia, and Sam has to pose as a smiling tiger.
No, that was Madripoor.
Okay, gotcha.
Madripoor is like the fictional city that the X-Men used all the time for, like, there was a period of time where Wolverine was there with an eye patch going under the name Patch and like just basically just being like a bounty hunter / detective. No, there's all kind of stuff that has happened in Madripoor. So yeah, that was like that was my stupid nerd moment where I went, else in the house knew why I cared. But no, I thought that stuff was real. Again, that intrigue stuff is pretty well done. I think that side of it, the sort of like why they're here and what they're tracking down, still feels pretty grounded. I think the biggest non-grounded element is Zemo, who I'm enjoying so much that I'm like, okay, but it does bump me that he feels so different. But storytelling wise, I like his role. I like that he's like stringing them along. He's stringing them along. You know what I mean? There's no doubt that he's stringing them along. They know he's stringing them along. So it's like this question of when is that alliance going to go sour? That feels fun to me, but it also feels like it's got to pack the storytelling goods. It's got to have some plot that, I mean, kind of what we've been saying all along. We feel like we're very much at the midway point in a story where we don't actually know where it's going from here. We don't know who, like the power broker. Do you guys have any idea who that person is or any theories?
No.
That should be our poll. That should be our poll.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff like people saying it could be Zemo, it could be Sharon Carter, which I think would be really interesting. because of how kind of like shady she is.
She got that one moment when they left, right? Yeah, that you knew was like, if they just left and you didn't see her again, this would be the typical Marvel. We had a nice moment with a character, and now we know what they're up to. But leaving with her saying something, you know she's going to have more to do. So,
or somebody new. Yeah, I think that'd be a good. If people have theories, that'd be a good poll.
Yeah, what's up with that power broker?
Or if it's like a new character, another like a fully new person, in this story, that'd be interesting.
Okay, that's a great question.
Anything else? Like, what do we think? I mean, you mentioned something really good, Steve, which is that John Walker would be using the footage, maybe or at least fooled by the footage into thinking that be stopped. He might, again, we still don't know this guy. They've kept him somewhat moral up till now, so he has yet to do that thing. The theory that I had with my son was that he might like get some janky super soldier serum from the black market and try to power up to compete with Steve's memory and become something worse than he intended to be, or something or fall into someone's control like Winter Soldier or something like that. Like ending the season with him sitting in a chair and them saying words to him would be a pretty dark way to take that character.
Wow.
But that also, who knows what they're going to do? Like with Marvel, this is the point where we all start spinning theories about what it's going to be, and it turns out to be more what we've already seen than we thought. Like I think that's kind of that thing you're talking about, Steve, of just being afraid that like, don't just throw a bunch of whiz bang stuff at us, but give us something with some real substance. But I'm trying to think of anything else that happened in the episode. I think you're right, Steve. Some of the most interesting stuff is seeing how the new Captain America is dealing with just the complete lack of respect. If not that people have for him, but that the criminal, the people he's tracking down, they're not afraid of him. They don't think his name means anything. The name Captain America doesn't seem to be attaching to him in people's minds that much.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anything else, Ronald? Anything? Oh, sorry, Steve.
No. Yeah. I'd say I'm just like very curious. I just want to see more of the team up, more of the story coming together and like, kind of progressing a little more, getting into the fourth episode. I don't know.
Ronald, anything else from the episode that stands out to you that you want to mention, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the ending, that Marvel connective tissue. We have a visitor from one of the greatest places ever.
Yes,
Wakanda. And it started to make me think, what kind of situation is this?
What kind of situation is this?
What kind of situation is this when Io comes, boom, just materializes in front of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and wants some answers because
in the Winter Soldier, Falcon doesn't know she's there.
Yeah, because of Zemo she's working. They're working with Zemo. Yeah, Zemo
wants him.
Must die.
Right, because of what he did. When you think about the storytelling there,
he killed T'Chaka.
Yeah,
he killed T'Chaka, which we saw in that was what was Civil War, right? That's Civil War. Beginning.
Were we ever so young? Yeah.
It seems like so long ago. That horrific explosion that occurred that killed T'Chaka. We saw the Black Panther mourning the loss of his father, and Io has that knowledge.
Now we don't even really have Black Panther. Like you wonder what they're going to do story-wise with his character, But at this point, we should assume that T'Challa is alive and well and running Wakanda, I suppose. But
right.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough to figure out like how much Wakanda they're going to bring in through her. But if she gets like just a standout episode like Sharon Carter did, it'll be cool. But once again, what's it going to mean for the story overall? And what are we going to learn about their relationship? Like I am very intrigued by the fact that Bucky found peace there and that the Wakandans welcomed him so much. And I don't know. I find that to be a really poignant piece of the story. So like. I like, and I also kind of love that Bucky's got this side hustle. He's working with Sam, but he just like the Prison Break, which I thought it was funny that he was like, "You wouldn't have agreed to do it," and so I just did it. I think that buddy cop energy is kind of fun. That like Bucky's the one with all these connections that he might pull out, and that Sam's kind of like right now they almost need to give us another episode where Sam does some amazing shit because he kind of seems like he's along for the ride in this installment to me, but. It was funny that he didn't like his suit or his his alternate identity or any of that, and him having to drink the whatever that was, squid venom or whatever. I like the thumbs up he gave.
So who do you? So we have some choices as to who we think the power broker may be. So I put Sharon Carter, Baron Zemo. Who else?
Patch.
I mean, I would I would say like somebody entirely like a new whatever you want to call that, like an entirely new character. You know,
Okay.
It's not like it's not some alternative identity of somebody that we've already seen, just a new character.
Gotcha.
Can you put 4 options? Because I would say somebody new or somebody from the X-Men.
Okay.
You know, or the X world, or how do you say the X universe, the X-Men world? You know what I mean? Like that would be.
I think you'd call that the MCU now.
I know, but I'm saying like in terms of that. Yes, you're right. It's now all under that umbrella, but you know what I mean? Like part of the.
I got you.
Like it could be a brand new invention, but it also could be that it's like, you know, Cyclops' brother or something that wouldn't. I seriously don't think they're going to chip away at the big surprise factor they're going to have when they start casting their mutants. But I do think it could be a character that connects to other things.
Sure.
It would almost be too much if it was another tertiary MCU character at this point. Like if we get another, them, it would be too much. So I'm almost kind of leaning towards it being somebody new, but they seem to be enjoying the little surprise appearances on this show. So
yeah. Yeah, so I would say Sharon Baron, and then a new character, and then maybe somebody from the X-Men universe.
Okay,
would be our options.
Did you get all that, Ronald?
All right,
you're our court stenographer.
Yeah. So I have Sharon Carter, Baron Zemo, somebody from the X-Men because it's like a character limit.
Yeah,
and then someone else.
Yeah.
Cool.
That works.
So it says, after watching the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who do you think the power broker is? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Good job.
That works. So
I was typing so fast as you guys were typing.
Can we add, if you fill out this survey, please also watch our show?
Oh, hold up. I can make it again.
Because we're trying to get this, right now the response to the poll is better than the...
Watch count.
And you heard how low those numbers were, folks. We're doing this really because we want to talk about Marvel every week.
Yeah, it's for us.
Yeah, fuck you.
Eventually it could be for you, but that's up to you.
If you don't watch, you're right. Eventually, we could just be keeping this back to ourselves again, and it'll be in text. It won't be nearly as fun.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap up this recap for episode 3. The episode was called Power Broker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Power Broker. So we'll get back together next Saturday morning, and we'll kind of go over episode 4 once we drop on Friday. And then, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not, track it back to YouTube and subscribe. Make sure you turn on the alert so you get updates when we post new content. That'd be for this and also our regular Movie Schmovie podcast. That's our weekly podcast. It comes out basically on any podcast platform that should be out there. Also here on YouTube. So if you subscribe and do the alerts here, you'll get both, which would be great. And if you want to find us on any of the podcast platforms, you can subscribe there and listen to that maybe when you're driving around. I don't know. We'd appreciate the subscribe no matter where you do it. And if you do it, just share it too. That'd be nice too.
Yeah.
Post it on Facebook, post it on the gram, whatever you want.
Don't be ashamed of us.
Yeah. Embrace and share is what we say. Well, I'm starting to say that now. We're going to say that from now
on. Is that our closing line on this show?
and embrace and share.
Embrace and share, please.
That'd be great if the series ends with one of them saying that. That'd be great.
Oh my God.
Fingers crossed, guys.
That'd be proof that they're listening.
You can find us Facebook.com/Movie Schmovie, Instagram, Twitter.com/Movie Schmovie. And if you are interested in the podcast, again, it's everywhere, but pod.link/Movie Schmovie is the best place that we like to send people. It looks nice, easy to watch, or easy to listen to right there, and you can jump off into whatever app you might have on your phone if you want to listen to it somewhere else. But we'll be back next week for episode 4, the back half of season 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. And like I said, embrace and share, guys. Embrace and share.
Yep.
And like John said, you've been our Aunt May also.
Yeah, right.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.